Good morning, everyone, and here we are again. And yes, we are taking live questions. So any of you out there who want to have a question or throw in a question, today we're doing perhaps a little conglomerate of questions. We've got a whole group of questions, examples of the types of questions that people are sending in. And at some point we may devote a whole hour to that particular subject. But we thought today, because I've been away and back and forth and traveling and what have you, we thought today we'd just take, a few random questions, the types of questions that we're being sent in. And so all of you who are live who want to throw in a random question about any topic or any subject you like, feel free to do so. Before we get into the questions, I'd like to say hello and welcome to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who always is by my side here. So we're pleased to have him here. And further to my right, you've guessed it, yes, there we have our trusty Carolyn, who has had to sort out all the questions for us today. And she's going to be asking some of those questions. But before we get into the questions, we do have to say congratulations to Dianne from Virginia. Congratulations, Dianne from Virginia. You are our first winner. And I know you've been in contact with Carolyn via email to see what we have to do next. And so she'll be emailing you later today to give you some options on your prize. So you have some options to choose from on your prize. So thank you for entering the competition and congratulations on being our first winner. So that was pretty good. I hope you're as thrilled about that as we are. For the rest of you, just a little reminder as we're talking about the competition, our second question went out yesterday, which was, in which video, oh boy, in which video do I say listen with your eyes? And we put that question out yesterday on YouTube, but just as a little reminder for those of you who didn't manage to see it, now you have it literally from the horse's mouth, me being the horse in this case. So in which video do I say that we should listen with our eyes? Listen with your eyes and sing everything you see. It's a song I actually sing to my grandson often, but it's something that is extremely meaningful to me and which was told to me many, many, many years ago. I can't say any more because I might give you too many clues. Anyway, so please send in your answers by, we have the sell-by date on that one?
November 15th, midnight.
Please send in your answers by midnight on November the 15th. Okay, so I hope you all had a great time for Halloween. I had a great time with my grandson for Halloween. I'm actually today, if I managed to get to it today, I only arrived back in Florida yesterday, so we've been in a little bit of a rush, but hopefully later on today I'm going to put up a couple of photos on Facebook and on Twitter. This will be the first time that you will see my grandson publicly. I don't normally put him up publicly because you never know what's going on out there. But as he's all dressed up, and you won't really be able to tell properly what he looks like, and I have to tell you he's the cutest little boy in the world, but as he's all dressed up and as he's with his mosey, which is me, I thought, I asked my daughter, can we put these photos up? And she agreed, so they're going up. So our first photos of my grandson are going up sometime today, or if not early tomorrow, on Facebook and on Twitter. Right, all the housework done now. Let's go to we're looking at Carolyn. And so Carolyn, I'm going to be talking to Grey Eagle here about these questions because, as I say, they were randomly chosen this morning in a hurry. We haven't had time to go through them, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed we're going to have some, interesting questions. And so Carolyn, let's go to our first question, shall we?
All right, Lauren from Massachusetts asks, what is your take on night terrors, which are different than nightmares and happen, I believe, only to toddlers? Is that some past life trauma carried over?
Oh, that's an interesting question, Lauren, because as it happens, my grandson, who is 3.5, I hate to say 3.5 because it means he's growing up and I want to keep him as a baby. But anyway, I'm glad you asked this question because my grandson does from time to time suffer with what we might call night terrors. And night terrors are basically when a child can wake up in the night screaming and crying and being afraid but not knowing why they're afraid, or being, you know, upset about something and just not able to control themselves, and they just cry and what we have to do as parents is to hold them and snuggle them and tell them it's okay. And occasionally we have to say, you need to stop that now, because sometimes a little bit of sharpness can help them to you know, to bring them out of that little bit of terror that they're in. A little bit of sharpness in the most gentle and loving way, please understand. Okay, so, so is it a past life? You know, who knows? I don't. It could be. It's a possibility. But I think it's, you know, there are two things that I personally think can cause what we call night terrors. The first thing is that, you know, if they've had perhaps an issue at home, they've had a problem with another kid, or they've, you know, they've fallen out with someone, or their parents are arguing maybe, or just something happened in the day that's upset them and so on, and it comes back to them in their dream state, in their, should I say, their sleep state, and it comes back to them, and they become anxious about the particular issue, and that anxiousness can manifest in this the night terror thing. So that's one possibility of why kids have night terrors. And a second possibility is that they are experiencing in that dream state perhaps someone in the spirit world, or something going on in the spirit world which they perhaps don't understand, and which is a bit scary to them. I had this all of my life, all through my childhood. I would wake up in the night being absolutely terrified, and seeing faces and hearing voices and so on. And trust me, they were real night terrors. And it's not necessarily that someone in the spirit world is trying to harm them or hurt them. It's simply that as children we don't quite understand what is going on, and what we don't understand we tend to be afraid of. My daughter had them, I had them, and my grandson occasionally has them too. And the remedy for them, because there is no real remedy except to try and make sure that you have the best environment you can for your children, which is not always an easy thing. But the remedy, once they are happening, is to hold that child, cuddle that child, be with that child, soothe that child, stroke that child in whatever way, or distract that child in some way or another, you know, by maybe reading a book or telling a story. I'm a great storyteller, so I like to tell my grandson stories. And when my daughter had night terrors, I would settle her down and snuggle her up, and I would tell her a good story, a nice story. So, you know, I'm not going to say it's past life, because personally, my own personal experience, my daughter's experience, my grandson's experience, I do not think it's past life. I think it's more about what's going on the day-to-day level, and what is manifesting in that child's mind in their sleep state. Good question though, Lauren. And just before we go on to our next question, let me point out that some of these questions that we've been asked will require a longer time. So some of these questions we're going to take as topics for our videos. So, you know, the topic of not necessarily night terrors, but the topic of what happens to us in our sleep state, and how we're able to travel and to move and so on, and the different responses that each of us have. That's a great topic. That will be a great topic for one of our live shows in the future. All right, next question, please, Carolyn.
We've got a live question from Dean.
Oh, hello, Dean. Yes, what's the question?
Is there a fairy realm that you have seen?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, well, when I was a little girl, I used to stand at the foot of the stairs, and we had a window sort of just that looked out onto the garden. And I always imagined that there was a fairy ring, and sometimes my sisters would stand and we'd look out, we'd stare out of the window to see if we could see the fairies in the garden. Are there little people? Is there that realm? I'm a great believer in magic. I brought magic into my daughter's life. I try to bring magic into my grandson's life, and I actually try to bring magic into my own life. I think if we stop believing in little people, we stop believing in something that's very precious. So I can't honestly say, Dean, that I've ever been involved in a fairy world. I can't honestly put my hand on my heart and say, yes, there definitely is. But nor can I say there definitely isn't. And so while there is no evidence one way or another for me, I'm going to just stick to I love the magic of it stuff. And I do believe that things happen and that magic happens all around us. And I don't think any of us really knows the extent of the form that magic can take. Great question, though. Next question, Carolyn.
Okay, this is from Sharon from New Hampshire. She says, on your last YouTube session, you spoke about using kind words from your mouth and to use kind thoughts. But I was wondering about the vicious words that people type to folks, both in private and public. In our electronic world, you can be very, very vicious, spreading lies while being someone anonymous. I have been a victim of this, and it is very hard to ignore it and say nothing, as I have learned to do. The send button is very powerful.
The send button?
Yes. Is there a better way to handle or to continue to ignore it?
It's a great question. What's the name?
Sharon.
His name Sharon. Sharon, it's a great question, and thank you for writing that question. It happens that, I've been a victim of this, and I'm sure that many, many people have been a victim of somebody else's meanness or viciousness or spite, or for whatever reason people do these things. And I'm very fortunate in that we don't get too many mean emails, but occasionally we'll come across one that is completely unnecessary and often mean. But as I say, we don't get too many of them, but I choose to ignore them and I choose to block that person because, I don't want to go there and I don't want to get embroiled in other people's negativity. There are, with movie stars, with people who are in the public eye, there are always mean things that are said about them. There are always untrue things said about them. There are always people willing to twist the truth to their own viewpoint. And as I've said, I have been a victim of this, but I choose not to be a victim. And I think, that's the secret. I choose not to be a victim. So if people want to say awful things or mean things, or if they want to tell lies or whatever it is, for whatever reason they do it, I'm not going to get involved. Yes, the send button is very powerful. And I'm sorry, darling, if you've been a victim of this. I'm so sorry for anyone who's a victim of somebody else's cruelty or meanness, or even just somebody playing what they think is a funny prank, but it isn't a funny prank. So my suggestion to you was, not only is the send button powerful, that little button that says delete, delete, delete is also very powerful. And that little button that you can press that takes somebody off of your email, that it takes them off of your Facebook, it takes them off of all of that stuff. That's also very powerful too. So you don't be overwhelmed by somebody else's putting their energy and their power onto you. Use your power. Be brave. Click your button that says off. Get off, and don't tolerate it. So don't get involved in it. Bullying, because this is what it is: bullying, intimidation. And this is a huge, huge subject, and we get a lot of questions from people, and we get a lot of stories from people who talk about, you know, my husband pushed me, my husband shoved me, my wife's, you know, whatever, took a knife to me. Or it's because it's not always the husbands who are the mean ones. We have to remember that. But, you know, intimidation and bullying, it should never be tolerated. And when it's done via email, the way not to tolerate it is don't get absorbed in it. Try not to get upset about it. Delete, delete, delete. Remember, you have the power to. Can we have our next question?
Yes. A lot of people have written in and asked about coincidences. What are your thoughts of coincidences?
Coincidences, I don't believe in them. How about that? I don't believe that there are any coincidences. I think that, and sometimes it makes me wonder, but I think that there are so many more things that are planned by the spirit world. There are things that are preordained. There are things that we're meant to go through. There are people that we're meant to meet. There are experiences that we're meant to have, much more so than I think we perhaps would like to, because I, for one, I like to think that you know, I can be in control of my life. And the truth of the matter is, I don't think we can be in control of much except for our attitude. And we can be in control of our attitude. So do I believe in coincidences? Actually, no, I don't. So there's the answer to that one. Right.
We've got a great live question.
A great live question from
Simone, and she's watching from Naples, Italy.
Hello, Simone from Naples, Italy. We love these live questions, and we love the fact that people are watching. So, Simone, what is your question?
Her question is, why do we think that spirits are always bad and they always want to scare us?
Do we? Oh, Simone. Well, we don't always think that spirits are bad, and we don't always think that they, you know, they're there to scare us. Are you perhaps talking about ghosts and people's viewpoint on ghosts and spooks and things that go bump in the night? I think that, you know, I think we talked about this earlier when we were talking about night terrors. I think that what we don't understand is scary to us. That's our human nature. That's how human beings are. And if something happens to us or something happens to somebody we know, if we don't understand it, it can be very frightening and it can be very scary. But in my line of work, what I've tried to do for all of these many years that I've been in this business is, you know, I've tried to help people to understand that people in the spirit world, not spirits, but people in the spirit world are not to be, you shouldn't be scared of them. There's no need to be scared of them. You know, the old saying, if you know, if they didn't hurt you when they were here, they wouldn't hurt you now they're gone. You know, there's nothing to be scared of, and I think it's sort of lack of understanding that we get nervous about. But Simone, if you are nervous, if you are scared, please don't be, because we know that those in the spirit world who are around you, who love you and care for you, would never, ever want to do anything to make you frightened of them. Let's have our next question.
Next question is Brittany from Charlotte. She asks, have you ever gone somewhere and felt such a bad feeling that you had to leave that place? What do you think made you feel this way?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Well, as most of you will know, I've been invited to go on ghost hunts. I've been invited to go and rid houses and places of ghosts and spooky stuff. So because that happens, I have often put myself in an environment where I would rather be anywhere else than where I am. One of the most major stories that comes to my mind is the story that I tell it's, I'm trying to think of the name of the book that it's in. I think it's in Proud Spirit. No, it is not. It's in A Matter of Life and Death. So the story is in A Matter of Life and Death, and it's not a nice story, but it's a reality. And you know, if you're a bit squeamish or a bit nervous, don't read the story. Just don't read it. But it's a true story about a dark soul. His name was Charles Brandt. This is a true story. And if you go to the FBI files and look up that name, you'll see that he is, at the moment, I think, the #1, the leading serial killer, which means being #1, which means that you have the most kills. I don't want to, be too harsh here, but I was actually asked to go and help in this particular situation, and I was in this apartment. And if you want to read the whole story, if you want to read more of that story, you will find the story in much more detail in A Matter of Life and Death. But briefly to answer this question, I found myself in this apartment, and everything seemed fine and everything seemed normal, and I walked around the apartment, and I didn't feel any bad energy. But I had been advised by Grey Eagle prior to going into this place, pay attention, be careful, pay attention. Well, when Grey Eagle says to me, pay attention, I pay attention. I know that this is not some crazy person thinking they've got a haunted house or something going on. I know that I should be paying deliberate attention here. So I went in there paying attention, and as I say, it seemed okay for a while. It seemed all right for a while until I went into the living room, and I was walking behind the sofa, and all of a sudden it was as if somebody had thrown really hard, had thrown a ball and thrown it into my stomach, and it was there was such force behind it that I literally doubled over. I doubled over and I thought I was going to throw up. And it took me a little while to sort of get myself used to this and get myself to the point where I needed to deal with it. And as I say, Greg was by my side and helping me and guiding me so that we could deal with this in a right way. I think the question was, would I have liked to have left? You betcha. You betcha. And this is not the first time that it's happened to me, and I've been in lots of different situations over the years that I've been doing this, where I've encountered, let's say, evil forces or negative forces, and but usually that's what I'm there for, and usually I have to deal with it. So as much as I might want to run away, I don't. I stand and fight and live to survive another day, I'm glad to say. Because no matter how much evil there is out there in the world, and we know that there is, there's no point trying to pretend that there isn't, no matter how much evil there is out there, there is way more good and way more light, and so much we can do to banish from our lives and from our environment that evil that is, lurking there. That perhaps is a topic, a bigger topic for another day, and a topic on how do we deal with it, and how do we, what do we do, and what can we do to stop this from happening to us. It doesn't happen to many people. It's a very rare situation, very, very rare. So please don't panic, don't get worried, don't get upset about it. It is a solvable issue. As I say, for those of you who want to read more about the story of Charles Brandt, you'll find that story in the book, A Matter of Life and Death. Let's have a next, and can we make it a little bit more pleasant? Good question.
Well, we have quite a few live questions.
Go ahead then.
This one is from Jay Wong. First initial J, I just know he's a gentleman, and he's from Singapore.
Hello, Jay Wong from Singapore.
He says, I've been told many times that my misfortunes in this life are due to my wrongdoings in my previous life. He's had a brain hemorrhage, and his ex-wife cheated on him, and he was told it's due to his past life's transgressions. Is this possible?
Yes, it is. It is possible. It's not necessarily likely, but it is possible. I mean, the fact that your wife cheated on you, I don't think has anything to do with you or what you did in a previous life. I think it's more about what she did. And, you know, and we have to be very careful not to get caught up in this past life stuff. Not that I don't believe in past lives. We've talked about this topic before, and maybe we should talk about it again in the future and talk and, you know, air some more questions in this regard. But it's just so easy to point and say, oh, well, this has happened to you because of something you did before. Sometimes it just happened to you because perhaps, you know, your life prior to your coming here, maybe you chose to, you know, go through certain situations, go through certain issues, which will teach you something, which will help you to learn something. You know, there are many people who are sick. I'm one of those people who have been sick, and we have to go through all sorts of traumas and difficulties. But the one thing that I've learned, and I was, you know, very, very sick for a very long time, many years ago, and you know, luckily got through it. But what it taught me was how strong I am and how capable I am of dealing with adversity. And, you know, Jason, thank you, Jason, because I'm glad I got your name there. Good job. So Jason, you know, I'm so sorry that you had this brain situation going on. If you'd like us to send you some healing, please feel free to go to our Facebook and you can put yourself down on our healing list. We'll send you healing every day, or just email us and ask for healing. We'll certainly send you healing. But I'm hoping that if you think about it, if you give it a little bit of thought, I'm hoping that getting through this situation has taught you about how strong you are, and that adversity can make us realize how strong we are, but it also can create in us an empathy and an understanding of other people's issues and problems, which it certainly did for me. If you don't go through the traumas and the difficulties yourself, how are you going to understand other people's traumas and difficulties? You might be able to sympathize with them, but you certainly won't be able to empathize with them. So sometimes our adversity, and in fact, I think most times, whether we like it or whether we don't, the adversity that comes to us is really much more of a gift than we perhaps realize it. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, Jason, that you take this as a wonderful gift. And I'm so sorry about what your wife did and whether or not you've resolved it with her. That's about her issue, not about you. This is not about you at all. It's about her. Let's have our next question.
Next question is Marcia from Hawaii. I had an affair with my husband during our 11th year of marriage. It was a terrible time in our relationship, but he never found out, and we ended up being married for 57 years before he passed on. I hate that I did that to him, but we worked our troubles out and loved each other dearly. Does he know about this affair now? Will I have to explain when I die? Are some secrets kept secret because there is no need for them to come out?
I think that's a great, well, some secrets kept secrets because there's no need for them to come out. I think there are some secrets that are kept secret because there's no need, and it would only be more harmful. But I'm sorry, what is this lady's name again? Marcia. Okay. When we ourselves, or when it's your turn to go and join your husband, you may want to tell him. You may feel that it's one of those things that was never resolved. I actually don't think, if your husband knows, he may or may not know, but if he knows, I don't think he's condemning you. Because when we pass into the spirit world, not only are we able to see all the faults and failings of other people, we see our own faults and our own failings first. And seeing our own faults and failings, it's easy to see why we perhaps drove other people to behave the way they did, or why we encouraged other people to behave the way they did. So I don't think there's going to be retribution, Marcia. I think it's going to be okay. And I think you should stop worrying about it, darling, because I think your husband loves you very, very much, and you'll be okay. Let's have our next question.
Baron asks, What's the most interesting thing you've ever helped someone find with Grey Eagle's help?
Well, the most interesting thing that I have and do on a very regular basis, actually, I help people to find themselves. I do help people to find themselves, because a lot of people get lost. We get lost in life, and we get lost in the things that are happening to us, and we often can lose ourselves, and we can lose our own sense of identity. And I find that the most interesting thing to seek out, and to help other people to seek out for themselves. But I don't think that that was really your question. So I'm going to tell you a little story of something that happened to me, because it was important to me at the time. So many, many years ago, I went on a holiday with my daughter Samantha and a couple who were very good friends of mine, Joan and Gerald. And we were going off to Spain. I was living in England at the time, so we were going off to Spain, and neither Joan or I wanted to keep our jewellery in the house, so we decided to put it in a bank vault. So Joan gave Gerald her stuff, and then he came to my house and he took my stuff, which was in a sort of a metal box, and off he went to the bank and put all of our jewellery in the bank. And all safe and sound, and off we went on holiday. And we had the best, I have to tell you, we had the best vacation ever. It was a fantastic vacation. And we came back, and well, Gerald was supposed to go pick up the jewelry. So a day or two went by, and then I called Joan and asked, did Gerald pick up the jewelry? And she was a bit evasive, and she said, oh, well, no. And then a bit later on, Gerald called me and he was very upset. He'd lost my jewelry. Now, when I say my jewelry, I mean all of my jewelry. Every little bit and piece of my jewelry that I had gone into that box. So this wasn't like losing a ring or a bracelet or a pair of earrings or something. This was like wiping me out. So Gerald called me. He said, I've got something to tell you. And he came to the house, and he was shaking, and he was upset, and he was just so upset. And he told me that he'd been to the bank and that he'd got Joan's jewelry out of the vault, but mine was not in the vault. And he must have, between picking up my jewelry and going to the bank, he must have lost my jewelry on the way somewhere. And he was mortified. Now, inside, I have to tell you, I was mortified too. But here I've got this man who has only done me a favor, which I asked him to do. And so, being the nice, spiritual person that I try to be, and let me tell you, this was not easy. I told him that he mustn't worry about it, and that, well, if it was gone, and there's no point crying over spilt milk. Even though inside I was crying over spilt milk, I have to tell you. And he couldn't understand how nice I was being, and why you being nice to me. I'd prefer it if you shouted at me, and on this went. So I finally got him out of the house and told him not to worry, and it was fine. There was nothing we could do about it, and it was fine. Off I went to bed. I was not fine. I was crying over the jewelry. I was crying because, I'd lost some pieces that were sentimental to me, not necessarily valuable, but sentimental to me. All right. So the next morning I get up, and now I'm not being so spiritual or so nice, and I'm making the fire. We had these big open fires, and I'm making the fire, and I get the poker, and I'm smashing the fire, and I'm poking the fire, and all the time I'm not saying nice things. I'm not being spiritual. I'm not saying bad things about Joe, but really, the spirit world, come on. Why would you let this happen to me? Grey Eagle, why didn't you protect my jewelry? And I'm banging and banging. I'm not being very nice. And Grey Eagle is sort of chuckling a little bit, and he says to me, Rosemary, the jewelry isn't lost. So I stopped my childish behavior, and what do you mean the jewelry isn't lost? He said, it's in the bank vault. So I call Gerald and I say, you need to go back to the bank, because my jewelry's in the bank vault. He said, no, it isn't, Rosemary. We emptied the bank vault. I said, but Grey Eagle says it's in the bank vault. And if Grey Eagle says it's in the bank vault, it's in the bank vault. He says, no, it isn't. We said, I've been back there. I've searched and searched. And I said, go back again. Go back again. Because if Grey Eagle says that's where it is, that is where it is. And he went back to the bank, and they went to the bank vault, and he was apologizing to the bank manager and just let me look again. And it happened that this vault was sort of a long, narrow thing, very long. And because I'd said Grey Eagle said it's in the vault, this time he took more time, and he pushed and poked and reached inside, and guess what was stuck in the back of the bank vault? So that's my own little story of how we found something, and how the spirit world can guide us to things and to lead us to things. And you know, but sometimes it's simply lost. Sometimes something is simply stolen. Sometimes these things happen. Above all, what is the most important thing is not that I got my jewelry back. The most important thing is, at least as far as Gerald was concerned, I had the right attitude. My attitude stank towards Grey Eagle, but I had the right attitude with Gerald. So it taught me a lesson. Let's have our next question, shall we?
We've got a live question from Sam. Excuse me.
No, go ahead.
She believes she was abducted by aliens and is asking for your input on this.
Sam.
She's from Montreal.
Hello, Sam from Montreal. We've had this question on a number of occasions from different people, and I know there are people like you who are out there who really do believe that this has happened to them. Unfortunately, this is not my area of expertise. I can't tell you that it did, but I also can't tell you that it didn't. I can't say that your experience was your imagination, because it could have been, it's a possibility. A little bit like when Dean asked me, you know, do I believe in fairies and the world of fairies? It's some people would say it's extremely unlikely. I might be one of those people, or I might say, well, actually, you know, there is much more to heaven and earth than we know. So to dismiss something out of hand, or to say that somebody's crazy, or for someone to think you're crazy, Sam, or perhaps you even think you're crazy, it's too easy to dismiss. But I'm not an expert on this subject, so I don't know what advice to give you. I don't know what to suggest that you should do. Maybe I know that there are lots of organizations out there that, you know, that have to do with alien viewings and so on. Some of them are really nutty and a bit crazy, so be careful. You know, we always have to be careful, because in my line of work, you know, there are people who are nutty and crazy too. So, you know, I would say, go to these groups, try and seek out someone who's got their feet on the ground and can talk to you sensibly about it. Maybe find, you know, somebody who's sensible, who has perhaps had the same or a similar experience, who can help you through this. Let's have our next question.
Next question is Amanda. And she writes, my daughter is leaving the nest, so to speak, and moving to another state. What is your best advice to a 17 or 18-year-old girl going out into this world?
Oh, Amanda, thank you for that question. Oh, well, having been and am the mother of a daughter, I know how hard it is, because at that age, 16, 17, 18 years of age, I mean, we can't teach them anything, can we? Because they know it all, don't they? They know everything there is to know. And it's hard for us as parents to be able to help them and guide them and steer them. Hopefully your daughter's got a bit of common sense, and hopefully she does listen to you. My advice would be to always be herself. Never be a follower. If you're not a leader, it's fine. But don't be a follower. Don't follow somebody just because. Always use integrity. Learn the difference between, you know, morality. What is moral? What is the right thing to do? Always listen to that little inner voice, because whatever you call it, your conscience, the voice of your soul, whatever it is that you call it that speaks to you, when you tell a lie, you know you've told a lie. You know it. That little voice inside of you speaks to you. When you do something that's perhaps mean, or when you do something that's perhaps wonderful, that little voice inside of you will say good job, or it will say bad job, however you hear or perceive that voice. So always listen to that inner voice inside you, and don't be guided by friends. Don't be guided, especially by friends you don't know that well. Be guided by that inner voice, and always follow your instincts. That's the advice that I would give. That's the advice that I gave my daughter when she was that age, and that's the advice even in her now in her mid-40s. That's the advice I give to her now. Always follow your instincts. Do what your instincts tell you to do, because your instincts won't see you wrong. That your instincts are that little voice. Your instincts are those people in the spirit world who love you. Your instincts are those things that guide you and steer to doing the right thing and being in the right place. Let's have a next question.
All right, it's time for the personal question.
Uh-oh, a personal question. Right, go ahead.
What do you do to relax when you are stressed?
Oh, gosh. Well, I read. I play music. Used to always go on the piano. Unfortunately, I don't have a piano anymore. I do have a keyboard. I sing. I cook. I do so many things. I do lots of things. I read a lot. I read a great deal. I'd rather read than watch TV. There are only a few TV shows that I watch that I like. I love Graham Norton. If anybody wants to watch Graham Norton, it's on BBC America, and he's hysterical. Of course, he's British. What can I tell you? But his shows are really funny. So I'll sometimes, if I'm sort of feeling a bit stressed out, I'll put something like that on. I like to watch movies. Look at all these things I do when I'm stressed. I knit. I love to knit. And what else do I do? Can you think of anything else that I do that you've seen me do? I cook. And it's true. We've got, at the moment, in my kitchen, we've got some branded fruit on the go. We've got some
Christmas cake.
We've got Christmas cake, which I'm about to feed. As soon as I come off the air here, I'm going to feed the Christmas cake. And we've got some limoncello going. So we've got all sorts of things going because it is Christmas. And this weekend I'm going to be making more cookies, Christmas cookies, to take with me back up to New York. So cooking. I'm a very creative person. I like to write. I like to write children's stories. I might, at some point in the future, tell you one or two of my Christmas stories, which center around my grandson, I might tell you. But yeah, I like to sort of just, I do things that I have to put some thought into, so that whatever it is I'm stressed about just goes away, you know, just goes out of my mind. You will notice, won't you, all of you out there, that I have not mentioned that I meditate. And I know that, you know, a lot of people who get stressed out, and especially people in my realm, in my line of work who get stressed out, a lot of those people will meditate. But I don't, and I have an admission to make that I actually don't meditate, because when I sit down to meditate, I usually find myself having conversations instead. Conversations with Gravel, conversations with my daddy, conversations with whoever is out there who wants to talk to me. So meditation for me is tough, although I recommend it. I insist my students learn how to meditate, and I recommend it to people who do get stressed out to do some kind of meditation work. But if you're not a cook, I can't advise you to cook. If you're not a knitter, I can't advise you to knit. And the one thing that I don't want to do ever again is to teach anybody else to knit, because it is a nightmare when you teach other people to knit, because then they come back to you and say, look, I've made a mess of this. Can you fix it? So I do lots of things. I have lots of ways of relieving the stress. And one way I find, and I've always found since I was a little girl, one way that I find that really, really does ease the stress and the tension for me is to sing, and to just belt it out there and to sing. And I don't have to have an audience. In fact, mostly I prefer not to have an audience, but I just like to sing, and I like to just get all that good energy out, because singing makes me feel joyful. So when I'm stressed, I try to look for things that make me feel joyful. Are we done with the questions? I know we have a couple of live questions. Go ahead then. We do have a little bit of time left. Go ahead.
Sam would like to know if you have ever seen an alien yourself.
I've seen some very strange things, and I've seen things that are unexplainable and have been unexplainable to me. And, you know, some of you might be thinking, well, you've got Grey Eagle, so why don't you just ask Grey Eagle what that is? Well, sometimes Grey Eagle's not there to give me all of the answers. Grey Eagle will lead me in a direction where I can find answers for myself, but he's not there to tell me, you know, this is this and that's that. He's here to teach me, to help me, to guide me, to steer me. So I have seen things that have been difficult to explain. I've seen things and experienced things that I'll have an explanation for, but I know it's not the full explanation for. You know, that's the best I can answer with that. And what was this second question?
The other one is from Gabriella. She just came in.
Hello, Gabriella.
And she's wanting to know if someone in the spirit world can calm a constant headache for someone here.
This is a question, Gabriella. This is a question about healing, really. Those in the spirit world can soothe. They can make suggestions, they can guide, they can even place their hands on you and make you feel better, make you, you know, make things feel easier. But okay, as a healer, I'm going to ask, if someone has a constant headache, as a healer, I'd want to know the source of it. Why? What's going on that causes this constant headache? Because there could be many things. One of them could be simply stress. Another could be, you know, maybe there's something going on physically that is causing that constant headache. But as a healer, again, we always like to get to the source of an issue, because unless you can get to the source of the issue, whatever you can do to relieve the pain or to help the tension is only going to be a temporary fix. And that is what the spirit world has taught me. Could your grandmother come from the spirit world and lay her hands on you and make you feel easier? Without doubt, absolutely. Will she cure that headache? She might make it go away for a little bit, but it won't be cured until you get to the source and deal with the source of it. I hope that helps you. All right. Are we... What?
That is the end.
You're looking as if there's something else going on here. So that is the end of our session today. Thank you all of you who are live for watching, and thank you for all of your questions, which have been great questions. Thank you all of you who are sending your questions in, because of course we do like questions coming up. Remember, if you want to participate in our competition, you do have to be a subscriber on YouTube. It's the only thing that we require from you. It doesn't cost you anything to be a subscriber on YouTube. All you have to do is click that little button, which is, I don't remember if it's to the left or to the right. To the right of your YouTube screen. It is to the right of that. You just click it and nobody asks you any questions. You don't have to give any details. You just click it and you are immediately subscribed. So, you know, we're looking forward to receiving your answers to our yesterday's question. And if you need to know any more from us, you can contact us on Facebook or Twitter. You can email us at rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. Remember to go onto Facebook sometime today, because you're going to see me with my grandson, first time ever. You'll see my grandson, and he is Batman, and I am the witch. Now, yes, before any of you say anything about that, I think we discussed this last week or the week before, that a witch, the word witch means wise woman. So I am the wise woman who just happens to be wearing the witch's hat. I am the witch in the picture. And I'm the good witch. I am the witch on Room on the Broom. And for all of you who've got toddlers out there, little children, and you want to watch a really great and wonderful program about sharing, go to YouTube and write in Room on the Broom. You can also get it on Amazon Prime and wherever else you get videos from. But it's just a very cute and a great thing that my grandson and I watch from time to time. And it's about the witch who shares. So if you want to do that, that's fine. Now, anything else that we need to do? Remember, you've got to have your questions, your answers to your questions in by midnight on
November 15th.
November 15th.
If you want to just reiterate, it was Dianne from
Yes,
Virginia.
Congratulations again to Dianne from Virginia, and you need to email us and we'll give you your preferences for what your prize will be, and we hope you enjoy them thoroughly, and keep sending in. You can still win some more stuff. And so Christmas is coming. The geese are getting fat. Yes, I do eat geese. And for all of those of you who are vegetarians out there, unfortunately, I do eat duck, and I do eat meat and so on. And we'll be talking about what is my best Christmas and what do I put on the table at Christmas time. And as you know, I like to cook. And as many of you know, yes, I'm writing a cookbook, which we are trying desperately to get finished and to get out by Christmas. We don't know if we're going to do it. We don't know if we're going to manage it. But certainly in the book will be my Christmas dinner recipe and what I do for Christmas dinner. So we'll be talking about that. Please send in your questions. If you have any questions about Christmas or about angels, this is the time of year that we're going to be talking more and more about angels, and we are going to have a live topic next week. Our live topic next week is going to be about, very specifically about angels, not spirit guides, not anything else, but about angels. We'd like some angel stories from you. We'd like angel questions from you. We'd like to know, we're going to talk about the significance of angels in our lives and the significance of the role of angels and why are they so prevalent at Christmas time. So we're going to talk about that. So that'll be our topic for next week, because we're gearing up now for Christmas. I know many of you are gearing up for Thanksgiving. It's, in America it's Thanksgiving. So maybe we should have the topic of Thanksgiving next week and not angels. What do you think, Carolyn? Maybe I've jumped the gun a bit here. Well,
you know what? I was just telling Sammy about your Boxing Day. Your Boxing Day is a little similar.
A little bit about Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
All right, scratch that, what I just said. We're not going to talk about angels next week. We're going to talk. You see, it's live. So we can do anything live, can't we? We can do anything. Hey, it's my show, so I can do anything. So we're going to talk about perhaps the meaning of Thanksgiving and the meaning of maybe giving. And we'll talk about, you're right, Carolyn, we'll talk about the British Boxing Day. I know that In Canada, they celebrate Boxing Day. In England, we celebrate Boxing Day. What is Boxing Day anyway? I'm sure some of you are asking this. And what on earth does it have to do with the American Thanksgiving? Well, maybe more than you perhaps think. We are going to put that topic up, whatever topic we do decide on later today. We're going to put that topic up. We're going to be, having another live show. We hope you will join us. In the meantime, have a very blessed day.